David the Fishing Pastor here, and today I want to talk about using braided line to take your fishing to the next level. If you were to go through my rod and reel setups, you would notice that most of my reels, whether spinning or bait casters, are spooled up with braided line. And that's just because I think it's so important and essential to fishing. And so today I want to talk to you about 5 benefits to using braided line and how it can help you become a better angler. So benefit number 1 to fishing braided line is, in case you didn't know, braided line is just multiple strands of line that have been braided into one solid line. Because of this, braided line tends to be very, very strong. And that's key if you're fishing places like I'm fishing today. In this local lake that I'm fishing, there are reeds, there's lily pads, there's grass, there's vines all in the water. And so having a strong line is really key to being able to actually catch fish in places like this. I'm going to be flipping and casting into this heavy, thick cover, and I need a strong line to be able to horse that fish out. And of course, the higher pound tests, the higher the breaking point, the stronger the line. Now, I love using KastKing Superpower braided line, and all of my baitcaster reels are spooled up with 30 all the way up to 65-pound braid, depending on the application. My frogging, my flipping setup for stuff like this, 65-pound braid. Kind of my more overall reels, I'm using 30-pound braid, kind of like on this KastKing Spartacus Pro here. So reason number 2 is, unlike other lines, braided line has 0 stretch. So if you're using like a monofilament that has the most stretch, or even a fluorocarbon that doesn't have as much but still has some stretch, and both lines have their application, but again, if you're trying to pull fish out of some cover, what you want is a strong line with 0 stretch. That's going to help you get a better hook set, especially when you're back in that stuff and you feel that fish bite onto your lure. As you go to set that hook, having 0 stretch is going to drive that hook into the mouth of the fish. And especially if you're using some heavy flipping hooks like I am today, you want to be able to have power behind your hook set, and having stretch in your line will decrease that power, and it will make you lose fish and not have as many hookups as you would if you were using a good strong braided line. Alright, so number 3 is that braided line, again, because it's strong, because it has 0 stretch, it actually has increased sensitivity. And this is key, especially when you're fishing places like this. But another application for it, and there's kind of 2 benefits to that. Number 1 is, as you're fishing different places, especially if you're fishing heavy cover, you want to be able to feel everything so you can feel the fish actually bite on your lure. So that's the kind of the first benefit, is just knowing that I can set the hook because I know I have a fish on. The second one is, what I like to do is, if I go to a place that I've never fished before and I just don't know what the conditions are, I love to throw on some braided line, and I'll throw on like a heavy jig, something that I can drag on the bottom, a football head jig, something like that. And what that helps me do is I'll throw it out as far as I can, and then I'll just slowly drag it back, and that'll tell me if it's a hard rocky bottom, if it's a soft muddy bottom, or if there's some trees or branches or whatever, grass down there, whatever it is. And again, because it has that sensitivity, it can help me determine my conditions, and then that can help me determine what kind of lure I need to throw in that situation. Okay, so the 4th benefit and reason for using braided line is because it actually floats. And this is huge if you're fishing top water lures, as you know. So if you're fishing a frog, for example, it's going to really be beneficial for you to use a line that floats to keep that frog more on top. Now, can you use other lines? Sure you can. You can use monofilament, which also floats. But again, generally when you're going to be fishing a frog like this, you're fishing in some heavy stuff. And if a fish comes up and grabs your frog and takes it down into that heavy cover, you're probably going to break off with a monofilament line. And then when you get into some really heavy monofilaments, you get into a very wiry line, and it's just not as good for the application. Again, because there's increased sensitivity, I can change it. I can kind of walk the frog. If it's a popping frog, I can pop it. And if a fish decides to come up, grab my lure, take it down in some heavy cover, I can wrench it out. But using a frog, using a buzz bait, different topwater lures like that, it can really definitely be beneficial to have a line that floats, and absolutely be beneficial to have a line that is stronger as well. So the fifth benefit, and the last one I'm going to talk about today, is just the versatility of braided line. Now, you can, again, fish braided line where the application is necessary, but in the case that it's not, the great thing about it is you could just tie on a leader. And so here on my spinning setup, you'll see that I actually tied on a fluorocarbon leader. This is my drop shot setup. And generally, if I'm fishing finesse, I want a lighter line. Now, again, this is very light line. This is actually 10-pound braided line on my Sharky 2 reel here. And a lot of times, again, if I'm fishing finesse, but there's still some cover, I'm just going to fish it on straight braid. But most of the time when I'm fishing finesse, I'm not fishing it in super heavy stuff. So what I do is I'll just take a fluorocarbon leader and I'll just tie that on. And then now it's a little bit more invisible to the fish. Again, because I'm presenting something that's right in front of their face, and I'm trying to get them to bite when they're heavily pressured, generally is where you fish finesse setups. I want a line that is a little bit lighter, or it's clear or invisible or whatever, to make it easier to fish. Hopefully these tips help you. I know that using braided line has benefited me in my fishing, which is why I just wanted to share it with you. And if you're interested in some really great braided line, KastKing Superpower Braid has definitely become my favorite, and all my reels that have braided line, whether spinning or bait casting, are spooled up with this line. That'll be linked in the description below for you. But thanks again for watching. I'm going to try to get out here and get on some fish, but I'll see you in my next video. Remember to pray, fish, repeat. God bless. I'll see you next time.